The year 2089. The place, the desolate surfaces of the asteroids in the Hyperzone asteroid belt. The enemy? Time. The hostile environment, sweltering heat, bone-chilling cold, and the endless double track of Hyperzone. Traveling at hyperspeed, skimming the surface of the asteroids, eyes burning from seeking an elusive enemy, finger coiled on the trigger. It's going to be a long, terrifying ride. And this is Hyperzone from HAL Labs, released for the Super Nintendo in September of 1991. Kind of a shooter race, maybe, kind of game. Lots of Mode 7 here, and very strongly calls up images, I guess, of F-Zero. So there's that. The story of the game is set in the year 2089, where Earth has become unable to support life due to humankind's ignorance. The Earth Council has turned their attention to the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, a place virtually untouched by civilization, but a hostile race of cybernetic beings has taken up residence there, and if humankind is to survive, the infestation must be eradicated. Because, you know, nowhere else is good, just the asteroids. The gameplay is a cross between racing and a shooter. The object of the game is to navigate each level while shooting enemies and earning points until finally an encounter with a boss enemy ends each level. After enough points are acquired, you earn an extend. Player earns an extend, and their ship is upgraded at the beginning of the next stage. The player's ship can receive up to 6 upgrades. As a racing game, the resemblance is visual. That's what it says. The Mode 7 tracks are similar to the well-known progenitor of Mode 7 racing, F-Zero. As a scrolling shooter, it also seems similar to Star Fox in that the player ship is constantly pushed forward through each level. While it is possible to slow down, doing so gradually causes damage to the player's ship. Hyperzone contains 8 levels. After the initial game is finished, it restarts from the beginning, with the player continuing in their final ship and keeping score, and the game loops indefinitely. Hyperzone has a resemblance to Eliminator, a game released for the Amiga and various 8-bit computers. The game's perspective and its unusual landscapes were inspired by the Stargate sequence of 2001: A Space Odyssey. The off-track landscape for the Material Factory is a tessellation of flashing tetraminos, I don't know, that resemble those in Tetris. The boss in Area 3 resembles the right part of the Super Nintendo controller and buttons of the same 4 colors as the Japanese and PAL regions for the SNES logo circle around it. Another HAL game, Kirby's Dream Land 3, references this game. The final area in the game is called Hyperzone, and several other areas share names. Stereoscopic 3D support was partially added, but is not enabled unless the users enter cheat code on the gameplay. It is supposed it requires LCD shutter glasses or perhaps future programming to enable the anaglyph. Some regional differences. The Japanese version is called Hyperzone, 2 words, and its logotypes in and out of the game differ from those in the Western versions. Levels 1 and 3 underwent graphic swap between the 2 versions. Level layout and enemy positioning, aside from each boss, is still the same. But the graphics set and the background music are different. It is unknown why this is done, because Level 1 and Level 3 have bosses that do not fit into their respective color schemes in the Western versions. Meanwhile, Entertainment Weekly gave the game an A rating, summarizing, "With lots of practice, you can learn to forestall annihilation. But when you finally blow up, and believe me, you will finally blow up, it's like reliving every Grizzly Driver's Ed film you ever saw in school." I personally do not super care for this kind of game, like a rail shootery racer thing, but this was kind of fun. I don't care for F-Zero. It's a racing game. Purely, I don't like racing games. This I thought was more fun than F-Zero. Absolutely. I know a lot of love for F-Zero is out there. I think a lot of it these days is just because Smash Brothers and Captain Falcon. That's just me. Hyperzone, pretty fun.